Okay, so we are live. Let's go ahead and add Pat to to our discussion today. So let's find Pat Gabamonte. I'm excited for this conversation. This is gonna be good because Pat is going to a lot of his lessons are not necessarily from his own experiences. It's from other people close to him. So this should be a pretty good conversation today. And so let's go ahead and see if Pat can hop on. Waiting for you. So just let him know. Join me on Facebook Live. So this is Pat's story. It's called "Legacy is Greater Than Currency," and it's chapter 5 in stories of redefining life experiences. So this is it's going to be a pretty cool story. And if you have never met Pat, he's a graduate of Buffalo State College with a bachelor's degree in media production. Born in New York in Lancaster. It's a suburb outside of Buffalo, and it's pretty exciting. It's gonna be a pretty good convo. So he's actually previous Cutco, big sports fan. Um, loves to educate and inspire young people. He does a lot of charity work as well. So we're just gonna wait for Pat to hop on. He talked a little bit about it in his story about his uncle. He talked about his dad. He talked about his granddad, and just the importance of legacy and how he was able to learn a lot about life just through the lens of other people and how they lived their life. So should be a pretty good story. And for those of you, just a reminder that all proceeds from every one of the Grab Tomorrow stories and books go to PB&J for USA. So we do our feeding frenzies every month. Our goal is to expand to all across the country. We want to right now we've had frenzies in California and in Texas and in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and all across Florida. So it's pretty cool, and all the stories. Hey Pat, there you are, brother. So all you gotta do, man, is accept the invitation. So I put you on as an invitation. Should be able to accept it or request to join me on camera. So the invitation has been sent. It's just waiting for you to accept it. So as long as your phone, Pat, is there you go. So Pat wants to be in your video. It says adding right now. And again, Pat Gabamonte. There he is.
Hey,
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you good. So
Awesome.
and for anybody who's watching, if any of you give a thumbs up that you can hear both of us, that'd be awesome. We appreciate that. And really excited for this combo, Pat. I know it's been a while since we got a chance to talk and have an actual live combo. So I know you've been up to a lot of cool things, and I love your story. I mean, it's really simple, and that's what I love most about it. It's simple. It's not like some of the stories that we get are really complex, and people thinks pressy. Appreciate that. So a lot of the content that we get from these stories are like overcoming some serious obstacles or challenges or circumstances. But I think yours is really relatable in the sense that your lessons came from other people and other loved ones. Your dad, your grandpa, your uncle, and it was cool revisiting your chapter in the book. So this is Pat. This is his chapter. Legacy is greater than currency. And before we kind of dig into like what you're up to now and go into the story, what inspired you to decide to write this story? I mean, I'm curious of where did the inspiration come from? You're like, you know what, Mike, I figured I know you're collecting these stories, and I know I want to inspire young people. Where do you think your inspiration came from saying, I want to put this together and submit this?
Yeah, I mean, it came from mostly my whole life. I've been writing. I've done a lot of even in high school, college. I wanted to write my thoughts, my adventures that I've had, and I think the biggest thing for me was I wanted to let people know that there's a lot of things that I've learned over my life, but it's not about for me. It's never been about for me what I'm doing right now. It's always been about what I'm going to do and what my history looks like. Because I've always been a big history nerd. I've always been the person who's always think about the fact that everything that happens today is history tomorrow, and so I've always wanted my family, my kids, grandkids, great grandkids to look back on what I've done and be proud of that. And so that's kind of where I was writing that from, I guess, in that perspective. And I said I always loved writing, and my dream was always to write a book. And so I obviously with their help, I was able to at least contribute a little bit to the great book.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's great. And I love what you said. That's why one of the missions that I had with this is to create a space for those that want to write a book, but maybe they don't have the resources or the action steps or time or, whatever resource it might be, but it's easy to submit a story, but it's tough to, complete the entire book, which was a
Right.
big motive for this. So, way to take initiative there and at least get yourself started. So I love that. And talk about when you were a kid. You talk a little bit about it in the story. You tell three different stories. Tell us why you chose those three stories specifically. We'll go into each of them, but what made you choose those three about your uncle, your dad, your grandpa?
Yeah, I mean, those are, I would say, if somebody asked me, what, tell me about you, tell me what shapes you, makes you who you are today, I would tell those three stories. I mean, those are the most important stories of my life.
Mm,
And those people, obviously, two of them are no longer with us, but they have had lasting impacts on my life, and even my uncle who's still around. He doesn't even really. I mean, I told him how important it was to me, but to him it was just something that he did, something that happened to him in his life, but he didn't even realize the impact it had on me. All these years later.
mm. And in order of your life, which story happened first?
The first one that happened actually was my grandfather passing,
Cool.
and then it was my uncle, and then my father.
And how old were you when Grandpa died?
I was in sixth grade.
So sixth grade. So that's
Yeah,
I don't even
I was
know.
like 12.
12. Is that,
Yeah,
is that sixth grade?
11.
So somewhere around that age, so
Yeah.
12, early or early teens,
Hmm.
so 12 years old, 13 years old, sixth grade. Grandpa dies.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that. I think a lot of people can relate in the sense that, a family member dies. But in this case, from what you put in the story, it had a profound impact. Why don't you walk us through, 12-year-old Pat, what you
Hmm.
saw, what you felt, and kind of similar in the sense of one of the previous conversations I had that sometimes we never actually revisit that child, that inner child. Sometimes we grow older in age, but we actually don't grow older in wisdom because we're still in that the pain of our childhood,
Hmm.
being bullied or being picked on or witnessing something that was unjust or whatever it might be, and it's really healthy to kind of revisit that inner child. So if you revisit the sixth grade version of you, 12-year version of you, what'd you see? What'd you hear? What was kind of happening in your life at that point in time? What were you into? And then how did this moment of with Grandpa kind of shape you, where you still remember it and talk about it, 20 years later?
Yeah, I mean, I was going through, normal kid stuff. I mean, I was playing sports. I was in school. I was trying to, get, good grades, all those things. And I was always close to my family. We always got together, a couple times a month and all those things. And my grandpa got sick, and I moved to Florida twice in my life. The first time I moved to Florida was before my grandpa got sick, and then we thought he was gonna be okay, and then it turned out he wasn't gonna be okay, and we had to come back from Florida to help take care of him and his needs, and just be there for for whatever was gonna happen. instead of having to rush back. We came back early just to because we knew what was happening, and I was going through a lot of different emotions at the time. I mean, my family was always really important to me, and when this started happening, I was starting to feel things that I had never felt before. I never lost anybody before. I never I was just a kid, and so it was a lot to take on, and I didn't really deal with that until after I lost my father, about 6 years later. So they all kind of I never really relived or dealt with that situation, like you said, until really all three of the stories had played out, and I kind of started seeing a theme in that all those years later.
Mm. So at 12 years old, Grandpa dies.
Mm-hmm.
It was your first experience with having to deal with a death.
Mm-hmm.
What was so memorable about it for you? 20 years later that you kind of drew out of the circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me was, he was one of those people who, he didn't have a lot, he, was a hardworking guy, blue collar, just, didn't have what you would consider, wealth in any way. But at the end of his life, he had, pretty much everybody who was close to him, everybody who ever knew him really, and had Eddie, cared about him, was there at the end of his life. And, it was like he was the richest person I knew at that time. I mean, because rich in the sake of people who loved him and people who cared about him, because he didn't have the the money, the finances, all those things that people would strive for every day. He just had people who loved him around him, and he had generations of kids that he his kids, his grandkids, and all that, and all his friends were right there around him at the end. And to me, that was that really spoke to me, as that it doesn't matter what you achieve in your life, it's it's who you impact.
Mm. So he had more like social equity.
So much, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So what a great thing for a 12-year-old to be able to see and witness and capture, because many 12-year-olds would probably sit and see the loss, like, oh my God, poor me, I lost my
Mm-hmm.
grandpa, which rightfully so. But in what you're saying is like, wow, my grandpa was a good dude. He
Mm-hmm.
impacted a lot of really great people, and the people that got to meet him are better because of him, and I like that. And on under that umbrella, it seemed like you had something else you wanted to say. Go for it.
No, I mean, I obviously, that was, me, years later realizing that. I mean, at the time, I was definitely upset. I was definitely, devastated. I'm like, why did I have to lose? Why did I have to, why did my grandpa have to go? Why did somebody else have to lose? And obviously, so 12-year-old me wasn't as have the forethought of
Intuitive,
that
yeah, I
either.
get that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I understand. But it's good to draw that lesson out. So,
definitely.
yeah. Was there anything else about Grandpa's legacy or situation that you would like to discuss before transitioning into your uncle?
I mean, not really. It was just, just for me, that was the biggest thing for me was at the end of, your time, and, whatever that time is, you can have an impact and not just have to worry about what you've achieved in the monetary sense. It's, achieving, the impact that you've had. And that was really the whole, the whole idea of the whole chapter I wrote, was that, that idea.
Yeah. No, that's and what a great thing for someone who's listening. So if you have like someone in their teens that are listening, they think
Mm.
everything revolves around their image on social media,
Yeah.
and realistically, their Facebook friends and Instagram friends and their Snapchat friends aren't really their friends. I mean, it's
Right.
those are the people that probably more than likely going to be showing up at the funeral. So it's
Right.
those are social media affiliates versus really getting a chance to connect with people at a deeper level. It creates intentionality with relationships. So I think that's really important. So
Certainly.
let's jump to your uncle. Tell us about that story and that situation. How old were you when with your uncle, and what showed up there?
Yeah, it was a few years later. I can't even remember the exact year, but it was a few years later when because I wasn't there when it happened, but he told the story of why he decided to quit smoking. And it was one of those things where he saw my grandfather pass, and then then he saw his mother pass for agonizing from her years of smoking, and nothing fazed him. He kept smoking, picked up the next pack, never stopped smoking. And then it was when he nearly drowned on a cruise, and he realized that he had a young daughter who he didn't want to leave, and that was what pushed him over the edge, and he hasn't smoked since. And that was, for me, hearing that story, it's like, nothing could stop him. Nothing could stop him from, his addiction. And then, it wasn't his near death, but it wasn't, he didn't care about his near death. He cared about leaving his children behind, and when they still needed him. And so that was, you could tell him, your blue face cells is going to kill you. This is going to kill you. Look what happens. But it wasn't for him, and that was insane. That was crazy.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. I can only imagine the fear of, his wife, and it was his kid too, right? Wife and kid. It was,
two
his
kids.
son and daughter. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that witness dad, trying to swim. 30 feet, I think you put.
Yeah, not even.
Yeah, trying to swim 30 feet and then slowly going under, and nearing a near-death experience as little kids and a wife watching that happen, and for him to have that experience as well. So what showed up for you? So you hear this story, you're in your teens now, you're probably 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
What shows up for you when you hear this story?
I mean, for me, it was just like one of those things where it just struck me that, sometimes people who are, who have addictions, who have problems, who have, things that are holding them back from achieving what they want to achieve, that doesn't, it's not what happens to them that inspires them. It's what happens. It's the legacy, like that's, where I started getting the idea of a legacy, because, he didn't want to leave his kids behind. And if he died that day, it wouldn't have been the impact. It would have been, I just left my kids behind, and that's what I really started taking from it, is not that the, people can hurt themselves all day, but when they see the impact on all the people, that really is what usually wakes them up.
Yeah. So for you, if I'm hearing you right, what you can take from that is that almost like on off self, like it's not about me, it's about those that are following me, that I got to make sure. So I'm living my best life, not necessarily just so I can live my best life. It's for those that are watching me or following me.
Those that are watching me, absolutely. Those watching me, those who come after me, those who have the chance to have, who the children that I could have in the future, all those things.
Cool. I lost you for a moment, but yeah. So everything you could have in the future, right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Yeah, it's true. 100%. And as far as your uncle, you said he's still alive, right?
He is.
So he's still alive, and he's able to, is he living this legacy that you kind of got a chance to experience? Are the kids doing okay now? Like, are they growing up to be good people?
They are, yeah. I mean, his son just got married recently. His daughter's, going to be getting married soon, and
Nice.
and he wouldn't have been there for that, and that's the thing, it's everybody's life is different. When you make a good choice or a bad choice, you're not just affecting your life, and now he'll be there for their weddings and their kids and all those things that he wouldn't have otherwise.
So it's not that he quit smoking; he just started being more present as a dad and a husband.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's good. So tell me about your third story.
So my third story was with my father. And he I was just about to graduate from high school, so I was 18, and he got diagnosed with cancer, and he wasn't doing well. He got diagnosed in March, late March, early April, and by June he was gone, and it was quick. It was, he wasn't necessarily healthy before that, but he was definitely not terminal, before he got diagnosed with cancer, and then he just, a few months later he was gone, and that was it.
So it's pretty quick.
It was, and he said, and it was, we were going through some family struggles at the time, and it was we figured we'd still have the time to be there, be together, and and the things that we wanted to do, we wanted to say, we wanted to experience together. We thought we still have some time, even though he was sick. We thought we still have at least a few years left, and it just came and went quick.
Hmm. And you said you were in high school at this point?
Yeah, I was just about to graduate. I was about a month from graduation.
Hmm. How did your mom take this, handle the situation?
I mean, she was not well. I mean, she was they were actually separated at the time, so they weren't even really still married. But it was one of those things where she did everything she could for him, even with that, even with the fact that they weren't even still together. And everything happened quick. I mean, they got separated, and then he got sick, and then he was gone, and my mom was trying to keep, because my sister was only 8 years old, so she's trying to take care of my sister. My brother was only 10 at the time, and so she had a lot to do with keeping them healthy, and dealing with everything that happened with them because they were much younger.
Mm. And you said that one of the things that was his motivation in life, he said, was Mike, you kids, right?
Yeah, he said. I
What?
said, for us, as his kids, he always wanted to fight another day and live another day to see what we were going to do. He wanted to be there for us when we had our big moments in life.
Hmm. So when you think back on dad, and you think back on your granddad, who both of those two have passed on, as you mentioned, and you have your uncle who's still here. When you think back to the lessons that you've learned from these guys, what can you teach to someone? So say someone's just tuning in, and they didn't get a chance to read your story, which is really, it's a great story. It's very simple, and I think it's relatable in the sense that people have grandparents that die, people have parents that die, people have near death experiences from family members, and you were able to kind of extract these lessons from these three stories in your chapter in this book, and extracting those lessons. How would you be able to teach those lessons to anybody that's tuning in, maybe someone in their late teens, maybe early 20s, to kind of take these stories that you've experienced in your life and kind of provide a teaching moment for them?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what I learned, I guess, from these experiences was, not that you shouldn't work hard for your goals and achieve things, because obviously that's part of living your best life. But at the same time, too, I moved all over the country. I lived, in multiple different states, trying to find things that I was trying to make it big in different industries, or whatever. And at the end of the day, now I'm in a long-term relationship. We're getting married soon. Kids
Oh,
after that.
congrats. Yeah.
Thank you. And it's I worked hard to try to make some money and do all these things, and that's great. But at the end of the day, if I was gone tomorrow and I had $80,000, $100,000, $2 million, that's not going to matter. What's going to matter is who's there for you at the end. Who is your whose life is different because of you. And that's one thing that I think people can take from, is that you don't have to achieve monetary things. You don't have to achieve things that the world says you need to achieve. It's at the end of the day, it's whose life is different because of you. What history have you created?
Hmm. Could you, would you be able to offer anyone who's listening, and myself, maybe a couple of examples of like how that mantra kind of frames some of your decision making on maybe a daily or a weekly or monthly basis?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had dreams. I always want to achieve them, and I'm still going to pursue those dreams. I'm not giving up on any dreams I've had, but at the same time, I I have to get to the core of why I do what I do and why I want to achieve things I want to achieve. And I've always wanted to have a family. I've always wanted to have kids and things like that. And for me, getting to the core of who you are as a person and what you really desire is what's gonna. I mean, for me, I made decisions based. I used to make decisions based on well, what can I do to advance myself? What can I do to make more money? What can I do to have all these things and all these nice things? But at the end of the day, that wasn't really, that wasn't making me happy. That wasn't, I made money doing things, and at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I'd rather not work 100 hours a week and make this amount of money. I'd rather spend the time with people who I care about, and that's, I'd rather work a little less, make less, but have more time for those around me who have impacted me.
So from hearing you right, some of the decision making comes from, career choice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So career choicing of working less if I need to make sure that I'm present with the family. I'm curious on even more like a day to day, like something that if you see a homeless person, or if you see someone that needs help, or helping someone with their groceries, or helping someone with random act of kindness, or is there anything else that shows up with your relationship where you're intentionally finding a way to be memorable or create a memory, or phone calls, intentional gratitude, or letters or notes, or is there anything that's almost like daily or weekly or habitual that you say, this is yes, what idealistically I would like to make sure that I leave a legacy, versus this is what I'm doing. These are the habits, these are the behaviors, these are my patterns that I'm living my best life, and this is how I can show you I'm living my best life by these examples. Do you have any of those examples for us on how you're able to take the lessons from these three great stories that you put in your chapter, the lessons from your granddad, the lessons from your uncle, and lessons from your dad, and applying them into like the day-to-day, week-to-week routines?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've been working at my church a lot more. I've been investing that kind of time in, and they're building, they're expanding. They're a newer church in the area, and they're always needing people to help out with different things. And so I'm always, instead of sleeping in on Sunday morning, I get up early and go help out, and with all kinds of things that they have going on. Additionally, with I've always we've with my girlfriend now, we talk about we could save up and have a little extra, or we can go on a vacation and make a memory that we're gonna always have. I could save up and have have a couple extra bucks for this or that, but or you can go out and make a memory, create something new, create something that we wouldn't normally be able to do. So those little things, and like I said, just in general, anytime there's a need that you can fill, you never know what that's going to do. For example, if somebody, the person behind you coffee, just little, like you said, little things like that, just stuff that that I've experienced with somebody needs a helping hand, you help them out. It's nothing to you, but it could be everything to them. And so those are little examples of things that what I've done in the past, and I continue to do going forward, and little habits that make a big difference.
Sure. I think that's great. I think it's really rich for a lot of people to hear that it is those little things. It is the planned spontaneity. Hey, we're going to take a vacation. We're going to save up the money. I don't know where we're going. I'm not sure what we're doing, but we're going to go do something to create a memory. And the random act of kindness of hey, I'm going to buy you a cup of coffee. A stranger in line, or holding the door, or helping someone with groceries, or giving someone less fortunate like a sandwich or something. Like all of those, even though it's not necessarily leaving a legacy, these people some of them might not show up at your funeral, but
right,
potentially they pay it forward, which is still leaving a legacy because if they pay it forward and then they pay it forward, and it's like, I
the
love
ripple
that
effect.
movie. Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
ripple. I don't know have you ever seen that movie with Kevin Spacey and Haley Joel Osment, I think is the kid.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Helen Hunt, I think, is in that Pay It Forward.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that
It's
movie.
great.
It's such a good movie, and he teaches the concept of like three people, and then each three, and then three more, and oh my God, it's
It's great.
beautiful. And that's kind of what you're saying here is legacy. It's legacy to really impact more people through kindness, through being present, through love and care, and I love
And
it.
just listening. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's even when I'm now, even I manage a small store, and people they have a bad day, and it's like they're all upset about things that are happening in their life, and it's like, we just saying, hey, what's up, what's going on, and listening to them, and they maybe it'll make them happier to work for the day, but also they know that if in the future they needed something, they can come to you, they can talk to you, and it's that little thing that maybe they don't have people at home they can talk to, maybe they don't have that significant other, that family member that they could go to. So just being that person that, well, hey, you know what, I'll listen. Tell me what's up, and and I'll hear you out, and maybe I'll make you feel better.
Yeah. So right now, is there a certain charity or certain organization that you're supporting currently?
I do a lot, mostly through my church. The church does all kinds of stuff. They did a big food drive for Christmas. So we did a lot of stuff through that. I mostly just donate through them. But I'm always
Buffalo still?
I am, yeah, and I'm always looking for new things. I'm always looking for new places to donate, new things to reach out, because I feel like if you do a little bit here and there, you don't need to do a giant huge donation. It's just something small, something that you can do, even just giving time. People appreciate that.
Well, we haven't had a peanut butter and jelly feeding frenzy up there in Buffalo yet, so.
Right. Well, I was thinking I was gonna mention that, because that's something that I'm always open to trying new things, and that wouldn't. I know you were saying that you want to spread it out a little bit and expand. So
I like what you did. Spread it. You're right. I do want to spread it. I mean, you might even be in this photo. I don't know. Maybe you were at this one. I know you came to a couple of feeding frenzies when you were here in Clearwater. And it is expanding, and we haven't had one up in Buffalo or in the state of New York yet. So we would love that. It's really simple. Just raise the supplies and donations, gather some people, set a date and a venue, and then just make the sandwiches and distribute them out. It's really simple.
Sounds good.
And we would love that. And I really appreciate your courage, Pat. And if someone's listening to this and they say, you know what, Pat, that was really helpful. I love the concept of legacy over currency. I like the concept of being present with those people in my life more so than the finances, and living a life with a purpose and a mission to be off self and on that purpose. And I really think that it influences and impacts your decision making on a daily basis. And feel like I like that. I'd like to stay in touch with this guy. I'd like to support any causes that you're in. What would be the best way for them to stay in contact with you or get in contact with you?
Yeah, I mean, Facebook. I'm on Facebook here and there. I'm not as active as some people, but I'm here and there. I post, I comment. I have. I'm actually looking to continue to write and stuff like that, and have my own YouTube channel that I'm starting to do more with. So just that kind of stuff. And that's all posted through. Yeah, I've been writing. I've been writing a reality TV blog for about the past year and a half, 2 years. So I like the writing part of it, but I kind of rather just talk and let whatever comes out of my mouth come out, as opposed to having to edit it and change all the things that I say I shouldn't say. I'd rather just let it come out and go from there. Maybe a little less production and a little more fun. So I'm working on expanding that in next month or so. And then I'm always on Twitter, and I always tweet out what I post, what I write, things like that. And it's my Twitter handle is I can put it in the comments as well. But it's yo grab a Gaba. So the grab tomorrow thing too kind of is, I guess, incorporating that just through being part of my name. So
yeah, love it.
So that's it.
What and the information for the YouTube blog, where would they be able to find that?
I'm tweeting out all that stuff. I'll put it on my Facebook as well, so you can find all the information there. And right now,
is that what it's called? Yo grab a Gaba.
Grab a Gaba. Yeah, yo grab a Gaba is my Twitter handle. And
is that on Facebook or on YouTube as well, or?
It's coming. It's something I've been writing.
Oh, it's not on YouTube yet.
Not there yet. We are just kind of kicking it off here in March. So
very cool. Okay. Yeah, very cool. So keep us posted there, and you can post that to the Grab community. We'll definitely support as much as possible. So I appreciate your time, Pat. That was fun jamming with you. I know it's been a while since we got a chance to catch up. Congrats on the relationship, and
thank you.
And future engagement. Is that coming, or?
Yeah, I keep getting asked when. My answer is soon.
When it happens, it'll happen, right?
Right, exactly.
and it will be the perfect moment, I'm sure. So,
Absolutely.
congrats on that, and your business endeavors, the church endeavors, and that's very exciting. So keep us posted on the journey, man, and I'm glad to connect with you. So, Pat Gabamonte up in Buffalo, New York. Enjoy that freezing cold weather. I'll be here in Florida waiting for
Yeah,
you.
sounds good.
All right, later, brother. Good jamming.
Have a good one.
So for those of you guys that are still hanging out with me, we have a lot of these awesome people, these great people that submit a story and all different types of stories. We have this book here is redefining life experiences, and then there's this one here, which is stories of weight loss, and then this is the newest one that I just released of stories of lessons learned from death. There's all these different books. In the Grab Tomorrow series, every one of the stories and every one of these books are designed to, just like people like Pat, to give them an opportunity to share their message, like a space for them to share their message. If they can't, commit to writing a full book, they can submit a story, and then raising awareness for PB&J for Now USA, so we can continue to spread our influence across the United States. So we're up to 74, just under 74,000 meals. And our next frenzy up in Clearwater, Florida, here in Largo, is going to be this month in February. We have one every month. And if you're interested in hosting a frenzy, check out our Facebook page, PB&J for Tampa Bay or PB&J for USA. We have our website now, pbandjfortampabay.com. You can check it out there. We have a GoFundMe if you want to donate. You could also mail any supplies. The address is on there as well, and we appreciate it. If you liked this conversation, tune in tomorrow, 1:30. I'll have a conversation with Patrick Herrick, and Patrick is going to talk a little bit about his story of him and his grandfather and having to face a really challenging decision of work versus grandpa, and during grandpa's dying days, and how he was able to make that decision, how to navigate the decision-making process. So I think it's going to be a really powerful conversation there too. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.